Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show's Xtreme TV on Sunday night, where we're doing our Sunday night specials, our season ones. And right now we're going to be talking about episode 7 and 8 of season 1 of From Dusk Till Dawn, the vampire TV show from El Rey. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Indian Hills Studios in the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. And thankfully, with the tropical storms and all the fierce storms raging their way through the Midwest, I have on a sat phone the real RDV Vankman coming into me with the Florida boy, Professor Pixel. And RDV, I've got to ask, your shirt, or I should say your hat, NRA, does that stand for like no Redskins or Red Wolves allowed, or what?
It's actually no retards allowed, as it is, but we'll go with Redskins.
That's not very PC of you, sir.
Wait, is there a PC around here that I'm supposed to be like?
Anyway, good evening to Jim, who's in channel already waiting for us. I hope you're doing good there, Jim, as people are filling in here. But yeah, Dusk Till Dawn, episode 7 and 8. We had talked basically as an overview that the season 1 seemed to be the retelling of the first movie from 1996. And so, of course, the gang is all allowed up to this point into the titty twister, and we're getting ready for the big sexy dance scene. So episode 7 kind of starts off with it, and then of course shenanigans ensue. But then the show goes down a path that I think we're going to have a discussion about, because episode 7 and 8 to me, guys, from my initial thoughts are this. I like them. I like the backfilling of story, and I can see where people who think of this as an action show or horror show go, what the hell's going on? Just when things are starting to ramp up, you give us this nice little sexy erotic kind of dance and fight scene for 10 minutes, and then it's all background filler, a lot of exposition by Sex Machine and flashbacks and everything else there too, which up to this point we've seen quite a lot involving Don Johnson's character. So for me, I actually did like these two, and what I liked about them is the backfilling kind of made me go, okay, this is what the show's going to do, and this is how they're going to fill it in. For what little bit of hints we've had till now, they just spooge all over you and give you everything for the most part up to this point that we go, wow, where we're going to go in. So let's go around the horn here. Let's get our initial thoughts there too. RDV, you look like you have a very unpleasant look on your face.
I've seen this series before. Watching the second time through, it's lost the glow for me. At least this first season has, because I know exactly what's going to happen up. There are certain scenes like in this 2 episodes that I still geek about. Yeah, when they actually start killing the vampires and they turn to dust like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Vampires. But the parts of both these episodes drag me is like it's just like when they start showing the backgrounds, like, oh, this is my story. Let me tell you. I was a Spanish conquistador. I was all about gold, like for Carlos. It's like we find out who he is and stuff. I'm like, well, I could have seen that a mile away before. You think about it. It's the white kind of person he is. He worships her, and she's like, he's a means to end to her. So we basically realize who's wearing the pants in that relationship, if there even is one. I thought it was really cool for the first episode though. It was number 7, yeah, is when they're killing everybody else, everybody's like, we're like, oh, it's like vampires, whatever, so these guys, like the stooge, not really stooges, they're more like the upper at higher executives, the ones that run the club.
The inner circle.
The inner circle. One of the inner circles, not the inner circle, but
that's true. We
learn about the Nine Lords, and this guy works for the Nine Lords. He's not one of the Nine Lords. So he's like a middle management. He's your assistant store manager, the kind of the retail store you just want to punch in the face. You're not the boss, guy. I'm your boss, though. I'm like, you're not the boss. But yeah, they go downstairs, they're like, and because you're like, okay, where are they going? You see them go down, and then you see and then they actually point out, and the girl like Seth, and then point out the girl. It's like, hey, look at this. You see the graves in the grounds. So all the blood from the victims funnels into this little, basically like a wine cellar thing, and they have a little funnel here, and that's like, oh, look at
very bladish.
I know. I was like, come on, it's like I did not expect that from any of the vampire thing. But you know what? I'm pleasantly surprised. Sex Machine. What can I say about him? Jake Busey just takes it up every notch he's on there. He's like, I spent my load.
He also has the line in there, Culebras come out and play like warriors, and I'm like, oh my god, I missed it the first time I saw it.
But I don't want to go over too much of it, but I'm just saying there are parts in there I still enjoy, and there's parts, the slow parts, like when the flashbacks, it's just like, Okay, does this have to be more than 5 minutes?
I liked it. It sounds like you're not crazy about it, and I can understand it, because we did mention how flashbacks, especially when they're out of time sequence, while maybe appropriately placed for us to get that, it does break the rhythm of whatever you end, and it's like something where you go like, okay, they're going to do something. Are they going to give us a flashback? And I don't want to be thinking about flashbacks when the next one's coming.
My major disappointment from this whole entire series is the fact that I would have loved to play the first season where you're trapped in the titty twister and you go down that room with that crazy guy, the army guy, gives you 10 minutes to shop. I want to see what else is in that storage room. Remember, it's like 5 centuries, he said, of this loot they've been taking from people.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much money's in there? And they're like, and Richie's worried about the 16 million. I'm like, dude, there's more than that in there, that little area. All the supplies.
Well, there's a lot to talk about as far as that, the way that it ends in episode 8. So let's go over to Pixel. Pixel, what are your initial thoughts about these first these episodes 7 and 8?
Well, the first thing I want to mention is that she stands on her own. What's her name?
Santanico?
Well, I was going to say the actress's name.
Oh, Eliza Gonzalez?
Yes, she stands on her own in comparison to Salma Hayek. I said last week that she's no Salma Hayek, and then, she does prove that she's got her own thing. So we have a fantastic dance, and then things go to hell. But this episode is one of the most disturbing I found. My gut was wrenching as I was watching the 9. Well, I don't know if they're the 9 lords, but they're sitting at the table and they are basically just eating from the flesh, and it's just so gross as you're watching, and it's so casual as they're eating fingers and stuff, and it was just
more wine, please.
Something about that was like troubling. My stomach was twisting at that moment.
Well, I think it's because the battle was a really good extended out fight scene, but it didn't have the funny gore splats that like we saw maybe in a movie or like say from The Evil Dead. This looked a little bit more realistic in the graphicness of it too. So yeah, when the blood comes out through the snake's head, it's a nice little set piece too. And you're hearing we have to, the hookers feed the pimps feed their bosses, the bosses feed their gods, going up that chain. Yeah, well, it's a good line, not because it's a cool line, but because it does explain very quickly in the moment what's happening, and that's what we're seeing. Oh yeah, they're not just killing people. There's a purpose to it. They've lured people there, and it's supposed to be a special night, and we get some more backstory with that. But I thought that the set looked really good. It wasn't like, oh, let me chew on this fingertip. It's just, no, it was served to them. You had your sausage plate, you had your, breastplate, you had this and that. I mean, you had, it wasn't on the level of like Hannibal, the TV show, but it was just, it was very good. But it was also in that smoke-filled room with the Mexican music playing. It had a very, very nice little, I thought, ancient feel to it, though.
What I thought was really cool is the fact that in that episode you find out how indestructible these culebras are, and then you find out the next couple minutes is like, oh, that's how you kill them. You can decapitate them, or you can stab them through the heart with wood.
Good point. You start getting some of the constraints, as it were, about what can and work and what doesn't work. Like, for example, when the priest puts his cross around his neck up, and then the one vampire just eats it. He's like, well, that doesn't work.
Well, I think the reason it doesn't work is he doesn't have his faith.
Well, that may be true, but it was just kind of funny to see that.
I'm disappointed that apologies. I'm really disappointed that one line from the movie didn't make it through. I'm a bad child of God.
Yeah. Well, as far as the characters go, the one thing I thought that had been pretty good, ignoring the action up till episode 7 and 8, is I really like how the story is really about relationships. And I was wondering on a bigger scale too, how if everybody's ruled by women, because we see how like Seth and Richie are making decisions based on the women in their lives and the women that they're meeting, not necessarily being bitches or simps or whatever you want to call them these days, but there's literally a driving force behind it. And in here we find out that the visions are a real thing. It all gets put together. But what makes it cool is not only does it explain everything, it drives a wedge between the brothers. Not because she's hot and I'm going to have sex with her, and he's not going, oh, it's bros before hoes, bro, or any of that stupid stuff. It's legitimate. And she's like, no, this is my backstory. This is what happens. You have to give yourself to me freely if you want this, and that's it. And what's great about her performance in here is that she's just not an incredibly attractive woman with a great dance. She actually delivers and fleshes out the character that in the movie we didn't get. And so I thought that was a really great angle with her explaining what's going on and what the stakes are going down, because we're like, okay, what is going to happen?
When they explain how the story about the professor that explains how there was this girl who was forced to become the demigoddess, of the snake god, or whatever it's called now, and she's the top dog in this temple here, and the rest are all her minions. I'm thinking, well, we see how she gets shot 15. If she is the demigoddess, the snake goddess, she got like a full clip, into her, and then how she heals herself is by bathing herself in blood. It heals herself. So I thought that was interesting.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other characters too, because obviously we were focusing on the family, but to me, these two episodes are kind of like run together. But what I thought was really good about the show too is because there's so much characters that are going on, and they're trying to not just focus on one or two. You get where each of these characters are getting some more depth to it. And the Ranchero, Mr. Gonzalez, he gets bit by her, but he survives. And now we're like, okay, now it's on. And not everybody in the group's just dying. They're being transformed into something else, or their true selves are starting to come out. What did you make of that?
Well, we're finding out that annoying ranger guy has a bigger part than just being the annoying ranger. They're hinting that the fact he survived that, he should have been dead, because she pumped all her venom and should have killed him. She said he'd be all just reveled up with his blood and bones, It didn't. And then we see him, he woke up after having that dream. He wakes up and he's right by the meat grinder. So it's the best part of the whole entire thing is like the meat grinder. Yes. I'm like, can we just throw some more meat in there? I wanted to see a guy fall and go, just blood splat everywhere, but they didn't do it. But there were meat chunks around there, body parts. We're seeing more about him. We're seeing the reason why Richie was brought there. We see what Carlos is, what the reason what he is, his job holding is, and all this. We're seeing Scott step up and be a man. We're seeing Scott kind of resenting his dad and saying his dad's pretty much a puss, wimp.
Well, it is a boy literally becoming a man in front of you until he gets turned.
Well, that we didn't find out until later in episode 8. We find out, it's like, she chose Richie over you. It's like Carlos like, no. But we find out that Carlos is a Spanish conquistador who was just greedy and all he wanted was gold. He didn't care about anything, the temple and all the girl. But then he wanted everything. He wanted to be immortal, and he wanted the hot girl. It's like, come on, really? Because we saw that in the temple back all these years, she was gonna bite him, but then he basically broke her free of the shackles, and she basically thought he loved her and all stuff, but it turns out he just wanted it all. He just wanted power. And so we're seeing more about who these characters are, and we're seeing them come together. Especially when they go down through the tunnels, because Seth was gonna kill the ranger because Mr. Ranger decided I'm just gonna kill Richie. Why? For revenge. Well, that's not what cops do. And I love how Carlos torments him. He's like, "You're not a ranger, bro. You crave this at all the blood. It's your kind. This is your bloodline." It's like, he said, because he quoted how rangers, when you're a ranger, violence always comes to you. And he's like, well, you're craving it, bro. You're different from all of them. And I love how he's like, how he brings up the guy's wife, and his kid.
If we recall though, Carlos, well, to me, I was a little disappointed because it seems like, he's a bit of a bitch with her, and he's whatever. He's not a simp for her. He's using her, but she knows it, and they're both aware of it. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. I still like how he kind of keeps his composure, but if we remember a few episodes ago, he knows that there's something to the Ranger's background, but he hasn't really told it. And he's trying to almost like what he does with Scott when he turns him later. He's basically trying to lead him into a particular position so he can explain it and use that as a source of power because, he's sitting in a chair and the Ranger's about ready to kill him, but he just keeps, machine gunning him information about what he sees in his past and how he's part of something bigger. So there's something bigger out there drawing us all here to this one space here in time. All the characters are, for the most part, getting it in some way.
I love how he explained. He's like, it's like, I've been alive for 5 centuries, or 500 or 500 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah. And he explains about how there's no such thing as black and white anymore. There's no such thing as good and evil. You see how they're hardly, what's considered to be good these days is no different than evil. It's just one believes that they're good. Doesn't make them good.
The one thing about the one thing about Freddy is that he's an idiot. He's such an idiot. He knows what's happening in the bar. Doesn't matter. He still goes in there and tries to kill Richie. He's
singularly focused. I don't know if he's an idiot.
That I find that stupid. When you're facing immortal beings that want to kill you, priorities, man. If he doesn't care about living,
that is his priority. Is to get revenge. That's where he's singularly focused. It's not about the other stuff.
And that's why I hate him, because he's like, well, I don't care what happens to me. I'm like, dude, you have a son, a newborn son, and you have a wife back there. Like,
he does.
You got to think about the bigger picture. You can't just throw your life away. If you're single, I wouldn't care. You're like the Punisher. You got a vendetta, death wish. This guy, he's just, to me, that's selfish. Wow, because he cares more about the old man, Don Johnson, than he cares about his family.
Yeah, he's got something worth living for, and he's not thinking about that at all.
And then what Carl is
killing Richie. But there's a line. If they weren't facing vampires, sure, go ahead all day long, try to shoot Richie. But to do that, you are basically saying, oh, I survived this. Okay, let me go kill myself again. It's idiotic. And it really, I understand that he's focused on getting the Gecko brothers. But like Carlos says, Richie killed one girl.
Yeah.
And so
you're an idiot. It's like, guys, smart.
So you guys don't think that he's being drawn by some unseen force like everybody else is? Because that's how it comes across to me. And I know it's frustrating to think, bro, you got, out of everybody here, you're the one that needs to stop chasing and go back. But it's like he can't. And that's where I can understand the frustration from seeing it. But watching it now, I'm going, yeah, it looks very clear to me.
I imagine there's a bigger picture at hand right now, but singularly focused, if his wife saw him, he'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Or anybody else, it's like, you're obsessed with that, and that's how, it's the point. It's like, he's obsessive, and I was like, stupid, what's his name, Harvey Keitel, or the guy's name is, the guy who plays Jacob in this. I was like, let Seth kill him.
Well, I got to tell you, the thing that seemed kind of silly to me in this episode, and maybe just I didn't catch it in the right way they were trying to present it or whatever, and it's, here in episode 8, everybody's kind of split off, but you've got the sex machine group with the father and the daughter, Kate and all that, and they're looking for Scott, not realizing he's been turned, but they're in the tunnels underneath it because this bar has been built on top of this temple that we had seen in flashbacks over the years. Yep. So it fulfills a purpose. It has spiritual drawing power to it. And while they're going through these, trying to figure out how to get the hell out, they run across a guy, and the guy's got like PTSD, saying I've been here for a day, a month, a year. He doesn't really know.
Sergeant Frost?
Yeah. And so he makes them basically spin this little stupid wheel to decide his fate or whatever. And it's got stuff on there like you got 10 minutes to arm yourself. And it really kind of took the air out of the bubble out of any tension that this episode had for me, because I thought, I don't know, something about it just didn't work. And then, of course, they have the A-team scene where they gear up and they go through and they get attacked by all the really low-level vampires in there. And, of course, he shows up the last second, sacrifices himself. And I just was like, yeah, I don't know. That was a bit of a downer for me.
I want to know who put those two stakes together. I've always wondered that. Who made those contraptions?
Right.
The fishing
Well, this
was
is what
real.
you're talking about with them having, this is
They
like
just-
the
they-
supply
they-
room of where the vampires put all the crap that the humans that they kill of their gear, because you figure they'd sell them off occasionally for money or whatnot.
Like I'm thinking, did they kill vampire hunters? Where did all this gear come from? Did that guy make it? Highly doubtful, but who knows? Like, maybe he did. No. Like I said, I'm thinking, I'm like, if this guy doesn't want to come out, I'm like, you had grenades the whole entire time? Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that was the flat thing too. And then the other thing too here is that we see where we see the Ranger basically, he has the big fight with Carlos, and Carlos is able to escape. But the whole thing with Satanico is that they have all their bosses there, and they're explaining why it's a special night, and they're feeding them, which is what you were talking about, Pixel. But she basically says, hey, we don't need to be, slaves to our lords anymore. We are this. We are the ones of power. Let's work together and let's not be slaves. So it's very empowering as a beautiful, strong female, basically not coming across as a Karen, basically saying, hey, we can do this. We just got to work together, and that's it. And here's my vision. Here's my business proposal. And Nick Queso, or where the hell his name is, the one that really comes across as a big D-bag ass clown. He's like, no, because he even tried making Carlos lick his boots literally to show him who his bitch was. And I thought, wow, I didn't like that at all. But it was cool because even though Carlos and Santanico aren't necessarily together, and he did pine for at one point over the years, they just have a working relationship. You can kind of see where they're on the same team, and they basically slaughter him and others. And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. Here comes the uprising.
And we find another weakness, Venom.
Yes.
Venom, they consume it and paralyze them.
Yeah. Well, because they flash back to where they were setting up the dinner table, as it were, and you can definitely see and remember from an episode or two before where Carlos had basically drained the snake of venom and all that, and they fed that to the main guy. And I thought, oh, that's good stuff. I always like that. But yeah, ultimately, I think these two episodes, there's definitely a lot of filler as far as background, and it might be too much information overload coming at you, because up to this point, I think it's as much as all the other episodes we've had up to this point combined. So while there's some great action scenes, a fantastic dance scene to it, it's a bit, I don't know if stop and go is the right word, but these two episodes are a bit different to me. Now, I happen to really like them a lot, because to me, I think this is where the season one has defined itself. It's done a good job to this point, basically recreating and filling in maybe a few gaps a little bit. But I really like these two episodes for, yes, a lot of exposition. It's just the way it is, but I don't know that you need too much more of that. Now you go, okay, this really fleshes out. And now you realize a lot of these are characters you're going to see. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I'm just saying, Eliza Gonzalez in skimpy bra and panties, whether she's covered in blood, it's always a plus for me.
I feel like every series has this kind of episode, if it's verging towards towards sci-fi or fantasy, things like that. There's always the exposition episode. You need it to explain the backstory, and it has to be there. Whether or not people like it, that's up to them. I personally can see its need. It's not going to be my favorite episode of the season or anything.
Right.
But it is absolutely necessary for us to understand everything that's going on. And thus, I say it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, about the only thing, though, that we didn't really bring up is that I mentioned at the beginning that, Seth and Richie, he's like, hey, when we get out of this, we're done. We're through. Because, they play the brothers thing, we're fooling each other, letting a woman come between us. And
that form, you guys, he's like, do you think about the 16 million? Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah, the 4 million give to your ex-wife. What the hell's that all about?
Yeah. But it's like I was saying, they're both making decisions about an important woman in her life. And even though one's the stranger that I've been getting visions about, but now she's here in the flesh, literally. And then, of course, the other one's the ex-wife. And you're like, well, it doesn't make sense. But we said before, the ex-wife came across as a really good character. It's been kind of interesting to see her, because she seemed very competent, and they seemed like a good duo. And that's one thing the show definitely has is strong, capable women in it, whether they're normal humans or whether they're supernatural in this case.
And you'll find out, and if we continue to do the next couple seasons, you're going to see they're going to add more female characters. who are even more stronger characters, like just like this. They do it well. They're not woke and not like I'm a tough girl. No, they're actually like add to the story and they actually have which are an integral plot.
Right.
So that's one thing that Robert Rodriguez is really good at when he does stuff like this. People can like look. I'm like, oh, look at Machete. Look how bad that is. I'm like, Machete was great, but it was supposed to be the corny, So, like I said, like Rodriguez, when he does stuff, he does it right.
Well, knowing that we only have 2 episodes left in season 1, as a viewer watching it, we're going, okay, we have pretty much 80-90% of what we're going to get. So how are they going to finish off? How are they going to leave it for a season 2?
Well,
assuming there's going to be one, which we know there is, but at the time, in a day and age now where sometimes you get a season 1, you get a cliffhanger, then you never get any resolution to it. I'm curious whether they'll try to make it self-contained and relaunch.
We also
get the final ending though of getting bit there by saying, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Richie becoming a
my brother doesn't love me anymore. Go ahead and bite me, you hot, sexy, mysterious woman. It's not what
it is. He didn't want to. He also didn't. He wasn't afraid of dying. He's afraid to leave his brother alone because he knows that Seth will go off the rails if he was by himself.
Yes.
They need each other. And we also got the prophecy that was talked about. 2 brothers, the twins, who are gonna go into the underworld and defeat the darkness. So we got that prophecy in I think it was episode 7. But
yeah, the hero brothers was mentioned, which we assume is them.
But it's interesting to see what's going to happen, especially with nobody knows that Scott's a vampire other than Carlos.
Again, Scott being a vampire, I didn't expect it to happen so soon, but I actually didn't expect him to get turned. I've been going off the assumption that, wrongly going off the assumption that deaths would be similar to how it was, but at the end of episode 8, Frost comes in and he sacrifices himself for the gang, and honestly, that's a more honorable death than he got in the movie.
What's crazy, I did not expect to see the original group from Carlos, the original villagers, be all snakes stuff, trying to sacrifice Kate.
The original Mayans, yeah.
Or as I don't know if he said it yet, but eventually he's going to start calling her Katie Cakes.
Well, yeah, it is a bit of a different change. I mean, this is definitely where the season pivots, but overall, I think these 2 episodes are pretty good. To you guys' point, they are a little bit different than what we're used to have seen before. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's by far the meatiest of the episode when it comes to content in terms of backstory and everything else. And for that, I think.
Like I said, the first season is pretty much a retelling of the movie, adding more stuff. The second season, where they add more, it's like more unpredictable, but it's actually in a good way though. So it takes off. So the first season, if you're not really enjoying the first season, I look at this. It's like watching the movie unrated with deleted scenes. That's how I look at it.
Because they definitely keep it mature, and I think that's a good point too. So I'm looking forward to see how they end it.
And we have no creepy Tarantino.
No.
Let's all be thankful that Tarantino didn't get
I just don't like having a girl's foot in my mouth. That's just whenever I see that part, what version it is, it's disgusting.
Guys, in all honesty, and Pixel, you're still way too young for this. Is that I thought exactly something similar, where I thought, this is very hot, erotic. The practical people go, oh, that's disgusting, that's gross. I'll probably get something dirty, in my mouth and get some sort of bug or disease, a worm, if you will, since it's tequila. Even though tequila would kill all the germs. However, that's very tame by spring break standards, certainly Florida spring break standards. So to me, it really wasn't that big a deal.
Do you think they clean those floors after they kill all people? They set up the bar again? I don't think so.
I don't know. I think they have to that way people don't
get the bleach off, guys.
Leave early, because you have to walk in, and whenever they're killed, the blood goes towards the center.
Yeah, but it's still gonna be kind of rancid. Like, what's that? Do you guys smell sewer gas? The place raises up.
Carlos has those people that he makes money with go clean it, I'm sure, too, seeing as how it's his place. And you gotta say this about Carlos: he does run a smooth operation. He knows talent when he sees it.
I feel sorry
for them all.
I feel sorry for the poor bastards who have to clean that meat grinder. There's an ear stuck on this again. Pull the body out. It's stuck. It's
We
wedged
forgot a
again.
little snack.
Well, there you go, guys. Episodes 7 and 8 of season 1 from Dusk Till Dawn from El Rey. Go check it out. Let us know what you think about it. Next week, we'll be doing episodes 9 and 10 finishing up, and we're interested to see how it goes. So I'd like to thank myself for coming on board, as well as Pixel, RDB, and everybody else for listening. Computer Robots in chat. One day, I hope you will see what Rob looks like. Wow. If you look at my photo, I'm a big X. So there you go. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for streaming. Thanks for sharing. As always, have a good night and stay extreme. Good night.
Good night, people.